So today we're going to be talking about a little clip from the SPL, and this will be the clip that I'm going to break down a little bit in depth. I'm going to let it play through first. It's between the Tartarus Titans and the Jade Dragons. This is game one, and all of this footage is from Smite Game. This is obviously not my footage. I'm just using it to analyze, and I want you to kind of watch the clip and kind of draw your own conclusions, and then we'll go break it in depth. I'll put timestamps down in the description to where if you've seen this game or don't want to watch it, you can just watch me go break it down first. And it's a really cool clip because I don't think enough people, because the people who play this game at a high enough level to understand like the details don't really want to share the details because they're in the pro league, and they don't really want to give away strats or reasons why they lost to give any competitive advantage away. Try to analyze it on your own, and as I do more of these, I hope you can kind of pick up on some of these things as well, and I hope you learn something. I'll let the rest of the clip play out, and then we'll go in depth.
Steal attempt that is still sticking around. So if Pegon can't get in, it's all going to be on Scream here, trying to slow the DPS and do the job that Aurora and SOT did just a bit ago.
There's the ring toss, ult used by Scream to stay alive. Sash should be available. Layers is going to be assaulted by Fineokay. It's the Taolu assault that gets a little bit of burn there. Not a lot afterward. There's going to be an ult from Paul, but it's just off the mark from finding anything big. A lot of low health bars on the Titan. Unfortunately for Scream, he's too low and gets taken down here. Another trade in favor of the Titans. The Fineokay, Panda, Pegon, all here to continue the fight. And the Titans are going to have to drop the Fire Giant. Solar Troll's barely going to escape this one. Great peel from Paul, keeping things going. The Fire Giant's going to get pulled. Pegon's incredibly low. The Titans all have to back, though. A bunch of TKOs in favor of the Dragon. They might just have the burn to do this.
This should be pretty free unless Aurora and SOT can do something about it. Jade Dragons are going down, but looks like Aurora's flopping aggressively.
Aurora comes in. Aurora drops the Intoxicate. Not enough to steal the FG. And they manage to get a little bit of damage out there. Unfortunately, it looks like the front line for the Titans might just be melting here. Taolu Assault stunned out. Slows down the DPS on Sot. Instead, it's Panda. There's the Scarab's Blessing, keeps him going, but he's so low. Such an easy chase down, and Paul is going to get credit for that one. Ult almost back up for Paul as well. Keeping this engage going could be massive, but Pegon over the wall like it's nothing, and the Aegis keeps things going in his team's favor. Now he just needs a little bit of safety, a little bit of help, and Paul is going to find out why you don't want to mess with him. They get the kill there. Cyclone commits his life for the kill on to Pegon. They lose the Fire Giant.
So Panda is split pushing in left lane, and he decides to push this Phoenix while the Pyromancer is going on. Pretty normal stuff. And he goes into the jungle here. And right here, they catch Panda on this ward right here. So they actually see him not backing to base. They see that he's going for something, and they make this decision to push 5-man over to Panda. Now, this only can happen for multiple reasons. So the first reason is that nobody is watching this mid lane. If you have Mike or Scream or Pegon, one of these players sitting on the edge right here, not showing themselves. I mean, you could be showing yourself, but it's better not to give them any information. So not showing yourself and looking down the mid lane, you would have seen Paul, Neil, Aurora, and Layers cross into left jungle here, and you could have told Panda to back or just run back to base so he would have been safer. What you're going to see is Mike actually decides to go into left jungle in case there are people over here already, because he doesn't know where these people are. He is afraid that they are on their way right here to Panda, so he's just going to go into left jungle to make sure that he is safe. But someone else should have covered the mid lane track, because that's the thing, is when you have someone sit in mid lane, they can see all the way down this pretty far. So if you're wanting to cross in here without being seen, you have to go down this path, which makes it much more difficult to make a quick play like this. Like if you had to back and then run from base, that's an extra 7 or 8 seconds, and Panda would have gotten his back off. But yeah, so we're going to see this. So now SOT's over here. They know Panda's going this way for something, and they have to think either for purple or Chalice, something along that line. And they're still not fully committed to the idea, but I think SOT spots out Panda here, and they're all over here, and they're committing to this. And they don't have great vision on this side of the map. They have one ward right here, but I think right now, because of how the map is playing out, they're willing to give up Fire Giant to these three members if they get a guaranteed kill on Panda Cat, because they will kill sorry, they will kill Panda Cat, because the importance of all 5 members coming over here is that Panda Cat's ultimate, which you have to use to target an enemy, no matter which target he picks, he's going to be in this general area and he will get run down eventually. Especially because they group up even more in a second. And so all 5 of them coming over here to group is necessary. And I think what their plan is to send SOT maybe on a solo mission to teleport in late and try to steal it, or they're just totally content with giving up the Fire Giant and pushing these towers after they kill Panda. So again, they fully commit to this. He knows he's there, and Panda Cat actually dashes right here. Really unfortunate timing for him, because one of the reasons Mike is over here is because Panda Cat can buy so much time with his third ability sitting in wall, creating distance with his third ability, his Aegis, and his ult. That Mike should be able to get over here and get the ult off in time, but he just dashed right before he saw all this happening, so he already lost one tool. And then he has an Aegis right here, right that wears off right at the end of Paul's ult, which is super unfortunate. And now Mike's in a bad spot. And on top of this, Fineokay has decided to teleport over to this, and the damage has already been done. Panda Cat's dead, and he won't be able to save Mike. So now, instead of these 3 members being able to get Fire Giant, which I think is what the Tartarus Titans were content with happening, Fineokay teleports to this side of the map. Now they have no one to tank this FG, and they can't even get this as a reward. So this is like worst case scenario for the Dragons right now. So Mike is going to end up dying, and he does a smart thing not to waste his ult, because he's not buying time for anything. If they were on FG, he might have ulted himself to buy an extra 2 to 3 seconds, but because they're not really getting anything, he just decides to hold it for the next team fight. But the important part is Panda Cat didn't use his ult, which will come into big effect here. Now, I do want to talk about this. So when Scream showed himself on the wave, so they know he's down here somewhere. And his role right now, like, they are not going to win a fight, obviously. So his job is just to delay them as long as possible and cause chaos, because the Fire Giant is where your, like, 4th man comes into play, that they need to be taking a lot of damage from Fire Giant, and to do that, you just can't have them focus FG. You have to get involved and slow them down. So having this like kind of trifecta of attack, because you don't want to be grouped for this, because then one person can effectively zone 2 people. So coming at it at all different angles is super important. And Scream actually gets seen here by Paul. And this is actually where I think the biggest mistake happens from the Titans. I think everything they've done right now is perfect. And right here. So if Paul had seen Scream right there, which I don't know if that ward caught him out, I think it did, but I'm not 100% sure. This is a terrible turret placement. So as you know, Ring Bounce is an ability that when you hit it, it bounces to all the nearby enemies. And because he put the turret right here, Scream only has to walk to about right here to throw it off of this and cause massive amounts of damage to the enemy team. And you might be thinking that it's not a lot of damage, like Ring Bounce isn't going to do that much, but every little bit matters when you're trying to balance an FG and 3 members running at you. So this is a very bad turret placement. Not only does it allow Scream to get an easy Ring Bounce off from an extremely safe distance, but it also kills the turret, which is a big DPS factor on FG. And so I think this is actually the main reason why this fight goes so poorly for the Titans. So when Scream walks up here, he instantly gets the ring bounce onto the turret, which is important for multiple reasons. Not only are you doing damage to the turret in order to kill it, you're hitting all the enemies, and you're getting the movement speed buff. And because Paul takes his attention off the FG to try and hit Scream, it's possible that these abilities land if Scream doesn't have this movement speed buff. Could be that he still misses it. But it would definitely make it easier to land if Scream is not moving as fast as he is. And so this is another reason why the allowing Scream to get this off is such a bad thing. It'll also lead to Scream killing the turret in a second. So Scream dodges these and is just kind of in here. And these people, the call is still to go for the Fire Giant for the Titans. And Scream walks up all the way to the turret, which kind of alerts them like, hey, he's close enough to be able to get hit, and we can commit to him. So they turn their attention, and Scream decides, or Layers decides to jump on him and try to probably block his path, is I think what he was going for. If he decides to ult out, which is why I went on this side of him. But he gets Layers' beads. And the thing is Scream has a bubble on right now. He also has both relics. So Aurora jumping onto Scream and trying to CC him really doesn't do much. And if you look at their team comp, because SOT is zoning Pegon up top, they really don't have any reliable CC to even get his bubble off, let alone lock him down to where he can't just run away and be a nuisance, which is a big detriment of their team comp. But that's just one of the downsides. And the other thing is Aurora really doesn't want to jump onto Scream here, because when you jump out of the pit, the aggro will leash onto either Cyclone or Paul, someone who's left in the pit. And then when Scream eventually gets away, because he will get away with beads, Aegis, and bubble, and ult at this point, he has everything up. You don't want to spend the time committing to try and chase him down. Then the fire pools will have spawned, the fire ring, and Aurora and Cyclone or Paul would be tanking. So Aurora decides to stay in the pit and remain the aggro target for the Fire Giant, which I think is the right decision. I think it's actually a mistake for them to go on Scream here, because you're diverting your attention away from the Fire Giant when he's not going to be that big of a threat. If he walks up, like if y'all all grouped right here, and he walked up and tried to, ult, you all have beads up, you all have your relics up. He's not going to kill. Aurora has meditation. You can just full commit to the FG, and if he full commits, you can kill him. Because with Paul, he should be able to secure FG over a Naja. It should be a pretty free FG. And what Scream decides to do here is ult out. And this is important because ulting Paul or Cyclone would do nothing here. One of two things would happen. They would either beads, and they would kill you instantly because you have no mobility. Your Aegis really wouldn't get you far. They would just chase you down. Or you ult and they let themselves go up in the air and then come back down and you die on landing, because then you're in the same situation. Your Aegis isn't going to buy you enough time. So using his ult for mobility, and the only upside of ulting one of these is he would get their beads, at best. So ulting away is definitely the right decision, because if you watch this, Layers doesn't want to go back into the pool with Scream around here, because if he goes back into the pool, he takes another 10-15% of his health, and now he is in kill threshold of Scream, and he has to be worried about him. So he's going to stay outside the pit, which slows that DPS, and they all jump back on. So it's really important for Scream to stay alive here. Scream still has his bubble, which is kind of irrelevant, but I mean, it's good. Now Layers isn't doing damage to the Fire Giant. He doesn't want to walk back in because of the fire pit. So he's watching Scream. Fineokay is now in play, and SOT is still zoning off Pegon. Paul puts another turret down, and it instantly dies to the fire pools, which is, again, really unfortunate turret placement. And I should have said this earlier, but the better place... so if he had known where Scream was, placing the turret right about here is the safest spot for it, because that means he has to walk all the way around, and at that point, like, you can start trying to catch him out. Now he's in a bad position, or he has to walk in and hit the FG, or 50-50 it and try to hit a skill shot on a moving member. And all of those, you have to be in range, which puts you closer than way back here where he originally was to hit the turret. You have to be a lot closer. If he didn't know where Scream was, then placing the turret right in the middle is the optimal spot, because the normally in a team fight, placing it here is the ideal position for it to be placed, because a team is on this side. So you're giving the most amount of area for your turret to hit enemies if they're walking in, and you hit them with your one and it re-aggroes to them. But because Scream is on this side, you're just giving him a target for his ring bounce, which is really, really bad. And allows your turret to be killed, as we saw Scream do. Yeah, so now Fineokay is in the fight. And Fineokay blinks into the pit and goes right for Layers. And Layers is kind of like the person you have to be really scared of, because he's got the big ultimate, and when Daji doesn't have this ultimate, she becomes so much less of a threat that getting this ultimate down is the most important thing, because the Fire Giant is not low enough to be in kill threshold. So him just getting in here and causing chaos will allow them to have to take their focus off the Fire Giant, and that's exactly what happens. So he forces Layers ult, and he gets a great ultimate off here. He not only gets Layers ult, immunes Layers ult if he tries to go on him, but he also gets Paul's Aegis because he's worried about the damage, and then he almost stuns Cyclone. It could have been even better. And then Fineokay actually gets out right here. So at this moment, they've done their job. If you look at the health bars, you have 20% on Layers, 20% on Paul, 20% on Aurora. They're in a lot of trouble because Mike has already respawned and he's running into the fight, and Panda has his ult to get him there as soon as he spawns. And if they just stall out right here, if Scream just sits right here and stops their back, and Fineokay runs away and kind of just goes does the same job Scream's doing and just kind of just be a nuisance, don't put yourself at risk, but be annoying enough to stop their backs, they come back from base, you get a free Fire Giant, and then you push. But Scream actually makes a big misplay here by going in, so he sashes into Cyclone, who has both relics, and Scream has both relics, but he doesn't have his ultimate. So Cyclone just beads this, and Scream Aegises and then just dies right afterwards because he has no mobility. That was the only real misplay that the Dragons made during this sequence. Otherwise, they played it really, really well. But this is still bad. Although he died, he still got Cyclone a little bit lower, which allows Panda Cat to go ultimate in, and it's very important that he chooses SOT. You know, you might go for the hero play and go in the back, but that's also how you die instantly, especially when you have no relics. So he does the smart thing and just gets to the fight. He goes on SOT, and although he's not going to kill SOT, he can do damage and kind of force these guys to stay around. Another really important thing, like if they had initially channeled their back, maybe they get here in time for the FG while SOT comes back in. So SOT gets poked out, and Aurora and SOT are the only ones that can really stay around with this low of HP. Daji doesn't have ult, so she doesn't have her safety. Vulcan doesn't have ult, so he can't really get in range to steal. If he steps up, he'll probably get ulted or hit by an auto attack and just die because he only has beads available to him. So Cyclone's already backed, and SOT's backing, he has teleport up. So Aurora goes in, and this is another really big misplay by Fineokay. So Fineokay pulls the FG, which is good for a tank to pull the FG, but he puts the fire pit directly into his teammates, and Pegon actually ends up using his 3 because of it, so, to avoid the fire pit, which you might not think is that important, but you can see right here, SOT is teleporting in at full HP, and although Aurora didn't see that Pegon's 3 was down, if he had, that could have led to a lot more trouble. SOT could have full committed to Pegon, knowing that he has no real escape. He has relics, but you could force Caprialt and then just cause even more chaos. So when he teleports in, Panda Cat is just full focusing the FG, and Pegon now has to ult to get SOT away from him because he knows that if he goes on him, he's gonna die. Which almost turns out to be a big deal because Pegon's job should be to secure this, but he has to take his focus off of the FG in order to get SOT away from him, and now he's placed himself out of position as the FG is getting low. So ideally, you would want your Yu Huang to be behind the FG right here and throw his 2-1 combo over the wall to secure it. That way that no one can go on him. He's completely safe back here, and he's able to secure the FG. But now he's out of position, so they're really 50-50ing it, which is not ideal, and Fineokay ends up securing it with a Guan Yu dash. They kill a roar, and they're chasing SOT. So right here, SOT is going to get his ult off and go, however many units that is, an Achilles ult away. And Fineokay has his ult back up. It doesn't show it yet, but he's about to ult. And he's going to ult in, and they have Khepri ult, but Pegon is low with both relics, and Panda Cat's full with no relics. So you know that you sent these two people back, Layers and Paul, which is why you were able to do the Fire Giant in the first place. So backing out at this point is definitely the safe play, but if you always did the safe play, you wouldn't push your lead as effectively as you could. But I do think this was the wrong play because Layers is able to delete someone. I was like, that's just how Daji works, especially someone with no relics. And that's exactly what happens in this little situation. And another misplay by Fine in this situation, he goes for a swing before stunning, and it's really because his team isn't in range. But what ends up happening is SOT either gets his dash off a cooldown or is able to juke in this direction and then get Fine going this way. And then when Fine cancels his ult for the stun, he's able to juke back a little and then dash and get out of the stun range. So now, instead of being stunned right here, he's moving in here, which makes Panda, Mike, and Pegon funnel into this little corridor where you have Cyclone, who's got ultimate, which is extremely dangerous in small corridors, and you have Layers and Paul coming right over this wall, which is an extremely dangerous position. So Panda Cat also dashes right here, which, again, when you don't have relics and your ultimate's not really safe, you have no safety measures here besides Khepri ult. Khepri ult is your only way to avoid being killed if you get jumped on. And Fineokay is still pushing in. Cyclone gets a good ultimate off here, and it stuns Panda. Does a decent amount of damage to him. I mean, not much, but it hits him with a stun. And Layers is about to teleport over this wall with Paul coming around the side. And Panda gets basically killed instantly. It's very lucky or unlucky how you look at it, because you actually didn't get any value from the Khepri ult revive, so you could have used it elsewhere. But he does get the ult off onto Panda Cat, which makes them commit a little bit extra to him. He's able to get an auto or two off onto Layers, which takes him down a little bit. And then this is a great play by Pegon. SOT is low, obviously. It's like team fight's been going on for a while, but he's a tank, so he knows he's going to be a little safe, and that the only person that can kill him is Pegon. And this is why it's a little noob of him to hug this wall. Pegon makes a really good play, because you obviously think that Pegon's going to go over here and regroup with his team and then fight in this small corridor where they're going to have to run in, which makes it extremely dangerous. But he decides to hug this wall as SOT goes in, and max ranges the 2-1 combo through the wall, which is able to not only kill off SOT, but Layers actually also walks through it and is taking the tick damage from the Yu Huang. And this is important because when he goes in like this, Pegon Aegises, and he actually puts himself so low with Fineokay's Tallow Assault that the next auto from Pegon is able to kill him. So if he was even able to get one auto off on Pegon here with the meatball damage, he could have died, especially if it was the burn damage auto from his one. And then Paul really does not want to miss his one. I don't know if it was on cooldown, but he walks all the way up to Pegon right as his 3 comes off cooldown. Super unfortunate. And actually backfires, but Pegon had already got his immunity from being in the air. So now Paul's in a horrible spot, and Paul's going to die. And they clean up this kill pretty easily. And Cyclone dashes in, very smart of him. He walks up during this and kills Pegon, which is 100% worth the trade because not only does Pegon have FG, but he's the only damage dealer left alive in the team fight. So they're not able to push down right lane with this wave and trebuchet to get any value off of it. Cyclone knows he's going to die for this, but it doesn't really matter because it's basically just a wiped fight. J-Dragons are able to farm a little bit, but no one gets a massive power spike off of FG or anything because you only have it on these two members. It really shows you how the individual plays of the players, really small decisions, can make huge differences in game, because in game at full speed you don't realize exactly how much, like, you're not able to watch 10 players at once, so watching what every single person is able to do in the midst of a team fight is really important to see the value of their character, how they play the fight, and it's pretty cool. Yeah. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you learned something that you hadn't known already, and see you.